For those of us living in parts of the world occasionally visited by inclement weather, it's perhaps not unusual to wake up on mornings in, say, January and February to a pristine blanket of snow. Perhaps you remember as a youngster wanting to be the first to make tracks in that perfect frozen canvas, an impulse that never quite leaves us, but only to find that someone, human or beast, got there first. This pang of disappointment was no doubt the first sensation to hit the young residents of towns and villages across Devon, England, on the morning of the 9th of February 1855. That winter was one of the coldest in living memory, and during the previous night a thick layer of snow had dusted the county. So far so normal, but something unusual had taken place. Imprinted in the snow, the townsfolk saw, was a set of tracks, not human, but seemingly not quadrupedal either. The marks were imprinted by cloven hoofs, but curiously they seemed to be made by a creature walking upright on 2 legs, not 4. Each print was roughly 4 inches long and 3 wide, while whatever left the prints had a stride of between 8 and 16 inches. For the young people discovering the tracks, disappointment must have turned to curiosity as they noted the consistent direction and unbroken nature of the prints, and then perhaps a frisson of nervous excitement upon discovering that they carried on, non-stop, over houses and seemingly through walls. They approached front doors and meandered through gardens, courtyards, and even graveyards. Superhuman stats. It transpired that whatever ploughed a trail through that snowy Victorian night had moved continuously for perhaps 100 miles, with prints identified in 30 separate locations. By some accounts, they continued into the neighbouring county of Dorset, touching on the outskirts of Exmouth, Exeter, as well as far east as Weymouth, even traversing the estuary of the River Exe, a 2-mile wide stretch of water, hinting to horrified observers that the mystery being could either fly or walk on water. Even more mysterious was the time frame in which the tracks had to be made, within just 6 hours, equating to an average speed of nearly 17 miles per hour. To put that into perspective, Usain Bolt's average pace was just over 23 miles per hour when he broke the 100 metres world record. The fastest ever marathon time was completed at an average pace of about 13 miles per hour. It goes without saying that neither of these races happened in the snow, nor were the runners required to scale buildings or jump over rivers. The identity of the wanderer remains a mystery to this day, but to many of the town and village folk it was an open and shut case. What has cloven feet but walks like a person, can travel great distances unseen, easily navigating impassable obstacles? What could do it all in one night before disappearing into the ether? It was, they whispered, the work of the devil himself. While not everyone laid responsibility at the door of the underworld's top G, the British press was more than happy to fan the flames of supernatural conspiracy. In London, journalists at the Times newspaper reported breathlessly of some strange and mysterious animal endowed with the power of ubiquity. It added, the superstitious go so far as to believe that they are the marks of Satan himself, and that great excitement has been produced among all classes may be judged from the fact that the subject has been descanted on from the pulpit. The theories. Assuming for a moment that Beelzebub didn't choose a chilly mid-century night in February for an expansive stroll across the Devonshire countryside, what other explanations could there be? Well, quite a few. The Illustrated London News published at least 3 letters in 1855 proposing theories. One, from the Reverend G.M. Musgrove, suggested the culprits were 2 kangaroos that had escaped from a private menagerie in Sidmouth a few days before. He later admitted that this was perhaps just slightly a lie, intended to calm the county's skittish village folk who were convinced the devil's work was being played out under their noses. In a second letter, dated 3rd of March, one Richard Owen theorised that badgers were to blame, given that they were the only plantigrade quadruped we have in this island. Plantigrade essentially means creatures that walk flat-footed like humans and, unlike, say, dogs or cats, who walk on their tiptoes. Mr. Owen added that badgers tend to be a stealthy prowler and most active and enduring in search of food. He neglected to give a reasonable explanation as to what means of propulsion enabled said badger to tear across the county for 100 miles, nor how it managed to sail over the Exe estuary in the process. Writing in the 14 Studies Journal in 1994, Welsh historian and author Mike Dash argued that some of the tracks could have been made by hopping rodents such as wood mice, the imprint of whose body might appear similar to a cloven hoof, particularly if people don't know what they're looking at. In evidence supporting this theory, Dash referenced sketches of rodents' tracks left in the snow of different depths sent to the Illustrated London News by Basildon bricklayer Thomas Fox and published in its 10th of March 1855 issue. Then there are fans of the outside possibility that an as-yet undiscovered species was the author of the prints. Perhaps it was a British relative of America's Jersey Devil, an 18th century winged cloven-hooved creature with a horned goat-like head. The beast, legend has it, transformed from the cursed 13th child of a New Jersey-based family soon after it was born. There are plenty of non-animal theories too. Unusual patterns made by rivulets of rainwater in the wake of the snowfall could explain some of the indentations, but maybe not the uniform and consistent order of the trail. Perhaps a more convincing hypothesis is that a weather or hot air balloon broke free of its mooring and coincidentally drifted pilotless across the landscape, dragging behind it some kind of tether that imprinted the snow. This would explain the consistent direction and continuation over buildings and walls, as well as the navigation of a wide stretch of water. But wouldn't it have been spotted? Wouldn't the dangling rope have snagged on something like a tree or a gate? And wouldn't an errant hot air balloon have been reported to the authorities? If one had been discovered drifting about, neither the press nor the police were ever informed. It could be that a combination of the above theories was the real cause of the devil's footprints, together with exaggerated testimony and, as is so common in incidents like these, a generous helping of mass panic. It's hard to prove, for example, that the tracks really did extend for 100 miles, because no one followed them from beginning to end. Witness statements from the time give inconsistent accounts of the footprints, while hoaxers are likely to have created some parts of the trail in a bid to fan the flames of hysteria. The phenomenon of the devil's footprints has never been decoded, and not since repeated. At least, not quite. On the 16th of March 2009, Devon pensioner Jill Wade woke up to find cloven prints similar to those witnessed 100 years before, crossing her garden, made by a two-legged creature. Quoted in local newspaper The Exmouth Journal, the 76-year-old stated, "I couldn't believe it. The footprints were in the shape of a cloven hoof. There were no other marks at all in the snow. I was quite surprised by it, and hadn't got a clue what it was. But I thought I would love to know." Wouldn't we all, Jill? Wouldn't we all? That's everything. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and why not post a comment? What do you think happened? Have you ever witnessed something similar? And if you thought that video was interesting, please do peruse more fascinating stories like mesmerism's battle for proof and the emergence of the Victorian era's very first monster. Most importantly, thanks for watching. Go on then.